In this video, we're going to learn about monohybrid cross. Gregor Johann Mendel was an Australian scientist. He studied the inheritance of some characteristics of the pear plant. He showed that inheritance of these characteristics follows certain principles. When he was studying in his university, he did an experiment on a pear plant. In this experiment, Mendel brought about the cross between two pear plants with only one pair of contrasting characteristics. This type of cross is called a monohybrid cross. So as to study the monohybrid ratio, let us consider the characteristic plant height with the pair of contrasting characteristic tall plant and dwarf plant. Tall plant was cross-pollinated with dwarf plant, and the result came as all the plants were tall. When these plants were self-fertilated, that is, self-fertilization was done, most of the plants came to be as tall, but some plants came to be as dwarf. The ratio here was 3:1. In this ratio, 3 were the tall plants and 1 was the dwarf plant. Depending upon these observations, Mendel proposed that the factors responsible for inheritance of characteristics suppressed in pairs. Today, we refer to these factors as genes. For this experiment, he concluded that tall plants are dominant and dwarf plants are recessive. So, dominant genes are denoted by capital letters, whereas recessive genes are denoted by small letters. As genes are in pairs, tall plants are denoted by 2 capital T's and dwarf plants are denoted by 2 small t's. Now let's look at the Punnett Square. The Punnett Square is a square diagram that is used to predict the genotypes of a particular cross. Now let's learn to draw it. Firstly, we are going to write the gametes over here. The male gametes are going to be over here and the female gametes are going to be over here. Now let's find the F2, that is the second filial generation. When we cross-pollinate 2 capital T's, we get 2 capital T. We're going to write it over here. And when we cross-pollinate 1 capital T and 1 small t, we get the result as 1 capital T and 1 small t. And we're going to write it over here and same as we're going to write it over here. But when we cross-pollinate 2 small t's, we again get 2 small t's. So we are going to write it over here. So this is going to be tall. 1 capital T and 1 small t is tall. But 2 small t's are going to be dwarf plant. So the ratio comes to be as 3:1. So the phenotype ratio is 3:1. Now let's see the genotypic ratio. The genotypic ratio describes the number of times a genotype would appear in the offspring after a test cross. So from here we can conclude this. And therefore the genotypic ratio will be 1:2:1. In this video we have learned monohybrid cross. Thank you. Please like and subscribe.